Hello. Well, as you can see, it's a slightly stormy afternoon here beside the lake. I am recording this on the day Oshlachut Zikin, 13 Zikin. I thought there was this kind of nice symmetry because, when I started this Akbal Trecena, I came down here and I did it in the sunrise, or, kind of like in the dawn. And now here I am at the very end of the Trecena, and it's kind of like getting close to sunset here. Shira's making her little cameo appearance here. And it's kind of interesting, it's interesting with noises here. Kind of like when I was out here at 5 a.m., sun's rising and all that kind of thing, or 5:30, and it's so peaceful, it's so quiet. And right now there's tuk-tuks, there's a band warming up over there, there's fishermen all around, and it's just a completely different atmosphere, of course. Anyhow, that's by the by, I suppose, really. I'm here to make a video for you about the Trecena of Ajmak. And it's really I find it very interesting. There's a whole reasoning behind why I chose to make these Trecena videos, because I think it's, kind of like it's another way of counting the calendar. It's another way of seeing the way that the days weave together to form these sections of time. And, I think that obviously I get questions from time to time and these kind of things. And my real feeling about it is like, great, okay, you know what a day is, you know what the energy of a day is. That gives you a guidance as to what to do on that day. You get then you kind of move into, okay, well, what's that Trecena about? But really, like, for it to actually mean something, it's really okay, how can I use the energy of this period to the best intent? And so I've been trying to think and, kind of like about this idea about having, so for example, kind of like a period of 13 days, a Trecena, where each day you are focusing on the theme, obviously with regards to the energy of that particular day as well, but like to have one overarching theme throughout the Trecena. And if it was an overarching theme for the Trecena of Ajmak, of course it would be forgiveness, redemption, acceptance. And so this is my first proposal to you for this 13-day period. Now, it seems to me that as we go through, it's kind of like, okay, we've been through this time where we've been like bringing this new concept in and that kind of thing. And now we're going to go through the Trecena of Ajmak and then the Trecena of Toch. And so when you look at it, it's kind of like, okay, forgiveness and redemption followed by service, followed by payment and that kind of thing. And I see this pair of Trecenas, this 26-day period, as being, okay, this is where we're really kind of like cleaning our slate. We're asking for forgiveness, we're forgiving others, we're accepting, okay, like what's happened has happened, well, we're going to move on. And then after that, we'll go into the Toch bit. It's like, right, okay, yeah, I asked for forgiveness, but here's something where I can actually kind of like do something to pay back during the Toch Trecena. So obviously I'll be talking about that in 13 days' time. Let's focus on the Ajmak Trecena first. Now, of course, the first thing I bring up is forgiveness, redemption. This is what Ajmak is, kind of like used for, or what can be seen for. But there is also this thing with Ajmak about it representing what it is to be human. Now, the sort of story goes that Ajmak is connected to the four first beings, the four, sometimes referred to as the jaguars of creation, or the Bakabob, the four first ancestors. And it's said that when the creators brought these beings to life, they gave them qualities that enabled them to see all things at all times, see through space and time. And the creators kind of said, well, hang on, we don't want beings that we can see, that can see through space and time. We want humans that fall over, that live a human life, that come and experience what it is to be a human on this planet, for all the good and all the challenges that that might have. And so they smoked the mirrors of their perceptions, and therefore they were no longer able to see through time. They were no longer able to see the consequences of their own actions. And of course, kind of like, well, things have been going wrong ever since. Sorry, that's a bit, I know that's a negative way, but you know what I mean. Okay, so Ajmak has this beautiful quality of being a human about it. That is what it is here to do. It is here to be fallible. It is here to be fun. It is here to enjoy the sensuality of being a human. And sometimes that means that it doesn't always get it right. And sometimes that means that we've got to turn around and say, yep, okay, my bad. Like, I was trying to do something perfectly. I couldn't do it as perfectly as I hoped I would. Therefore, I've got to make amends for it. And that's what Ajmak Trecena is here to do. Now, we could look at it as, kind of like forgiveness of others, asking for forgiveness, and forgiveness of self as the three kind of like main areas to work on. Okay, so as we go through the count of days, as we go through the 13 days of the Trecena, this is a time to ask yourself, right, okay, how does that refer to me? How can I use that in order to either, have I got a situation, an issue around that where I'm going to need to ask for forgiveness? Have I got a situation around it where I need to, forgive somebody around that issue as well? Okay, what are those issues? We'll find out as we go through. So, the day one Ajmak could be seen as like a fresh start for forgiveness. It's the beginning of the forgiveness process. And sometimes we've been dealing with things and you're kind of looking at it going, right, I really don't know how I'm going to ask for this. I don't know really what I'm going to do with this. Sometimes it's really difficult to, kind of like, make that first call. Ask for something to happen, or, kind of like ask to be forgiven. And so, one Achmach is a great day to initiate it, to initiate forgiveness. Okay? And to initiate acceptance. The acceptance that I'm human, you're human, we're all human, and that means that we don't always get it right. So let's try and kind of like accept that we do the best that we can, and then we move on from that. So for the day one Achmach, as I say, the beginning of a forgiveness process, maybe you've got something that you know about that's been kind of like, say, in the works for a while, then that's the time to begin it. From one Achmach, we then move to two Noch. So Noch, the Nawal of the mind, of the brain, and here with the number two. The number two representing duality. The number two representing both sides, polarities. And so what we could see, or I see, is kind of like, this is using our knowledge, using our intellect, using our problem-solving skills. That's what comes along with Noch, to both sides of the story. Whether it is in this Trecena of forgiveness, you forgiving somebody else, or you asking for forgiveness, then, kind of like the things cut both ways, don't they? Sometimes it's like, we've got our story, but did we really know the story of the other? Can we really solve the problem? Can we really resolve the issue if we don't take the opportunity to see things from the other side, to use the information that comes from the other side? So Tu Noch may bring things like that information out in what I would call a very stark reality, because it's a 1 or a 0. There is no in between with that. Okay? And so it's saying, right, okay, but you got to look at it in that kind of clarity in order to solve the problem. So yes, it might bring things up, but it also brings up the ability to come up with a solution, because that's what Noch is here for. Okay, so analyze, from the perspective of sometimes the extremes as well, the 1 and the 0. They are the extreme polarities, and say, right, okay, where can we come to an agreement? Where can we come to redemption from within that? From 2 Noch, we're then going to 3T hash. I particularly love 3T hash. And I love 3T hash because, we're talking about T hash, we're talking about the warrior, we're talking about the healer. T hash I see as the one who is striving for perfection. I see T hash as the one who's cleaning things up. I see T hash as the purifier. And where is that focused on the day, on the third day of the Trecena? Within the home, within the heart, within us. Okay, so 3T hash, I like to associate with the phrase polishing your inner diamond, because it's really about the going through the process of inner purification. Now, if we were looking on a idea about forgiveness, and we're thinking about purifying ourselves, I mean, if you are carrying something that you need to cut away from your heart, something you may need to forgive yourself for, because, kind of like, I think that forgiveness of self is sometimes one of the more difficult aspects. 3T hash is the day to look inside, the day to clean house within. 3T hash is the day to really shine that up, to kind of work out what it is that you need to clear, so that you can move forwards in that forgiveness process, right? And so for, kind of like, this is a great day to be going within, to be asking of yourself, okay, what is it that I need to purify, to clean, and to heal within me in order to go through this forgiveness process, Trecena. Okay? Hot on the heels of 3T hash comes Fourker Walk. Bit of Walk going on up there, I think. I often say that I see T hash and Walk as kind of counterparts. We have T hash coming along, slicing away, cutting away, healing like the surgeon heals by cutting away what needs to be cut away. And then we have Walk coming along and washing away what needs to be washed. We have Walk coming along and providing the healing afterwards. Okay? Kawok being sympathetic, Kawok being very, kind of like compassionate, but also being the storm that is not going to let things rest. It's going to wash it away so that it really kind of like gets done once and for all. Okay, now we see it with the number 4, representing the physical plane of existence. The number 4, this is about, kind of like bringing something into the material world, grounding it. And if we see it with Kawok, it's just like, I often say about Kawok that I associate the phrase tough love with Kawok, because she is there to make sure that we go through our stuff. And sometimes she's there to give us a push to make us go through our stuff. Give us quite a good shove sometimes, especially when we got the rain coming in, hopefully not before I end this video anyway, but that's going to wash things away with a great deal of force. The storm can sometimes be scary, but it's like we also need the rain to bring us all this greenness and to bring the maize to fruition, if nothing else. We'll talk about that later on as well. So for Kawok, it's like the grounding of the healing process, the grounding of the emergence, of the washing away of that which has been cut in order for the healing to go on. Now, I also mentioned the word compassion when I talk about Kawok, and as we go through this period of forgiveness, of acceptance of ourselves and of others for the beautiful human beings that we all are, of course, this involves compassion, right? We realize that, kind of like sometimes, people do stuff, and sometimes people do some pretty nasty stuff as well, right? And sometimes we're on the receiving end of it. And we think, what did I do to deserve that? Or why would they do such a thing and all that kind of thing? But we also don't always know what they are going through at that point in time. And we kind of like, the people act weird sometimes, right? Well, Fourker Walk is, kind of like having the compassion for the things which are going on in the physical realm. And, kind of like in this forgiveness process, it's like, kind of like saying, right, okay, how can I bring compassion in physically in this moment in time to understand what was going on in the world of the other when that happened? Or how can I use it as well in my own world to understand what was going on in my world that made me act or react in such a way that I'm not feeling particularly good about, it's like so that I can forgive myself. After Fourker Walk comes 5 Achpu. So we have Achpu, the Nawal of the sun, somewhere. Achpu, the Nawal of the spiritual path, of the leader, of the blowgunner, the hero that is, the one who's coming to show us the way. And here we have it with the number 5, representing work, sometimes hard work at that. And so for me, 5 Achpu, working on your spiritual path. I mean, this is really what it's about. Now, we could say that acts of forgiveness are exactly that. They're something that, kind of like we're going to need to do on our spiritual path because we can't hold on to it. We can't stay being offended for forever. We got to let it go, right? And sometimes it's like it's not easy because you really felt it. And so 5 Arpu is saying, right, okay, this is where we're going to put our work in. We're going to put our energy into this today because this is something which is going to help to open up our path. And so, as I said, it's not like this acts of forgiveness come necessarily always easily. Sometimes we really have to like take a breath and kind of like put some effort into it and that kind of thing. But it's saying today that the work that you put in is something which can be part of your spiritual path. And of course, we can see that forgiveness should be a very big part of that because, I look at it as that if you are carrying around burdens of guilt or blame or shame, they're going to slow down your progress on your spiritual path. So, putting your work into forgiveness, into clearing those things, is something which is going to help to move you along on that spiritual path, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so 5 Arpu is, kind of like recognizing how putting our work into forgiveness for the Trecena is going to accelerate our spiritual path. From 5 Arpu, we're then going into 6 Imosh. Imosh, the lake. Imosh, our dream world. Imosh, our connection with each other. I see Imosh being kind of like the psychic field that connects us all together is part of that. The dream world, yes, but it's also like our empathy for each other. And when we see it with the number 6 representing the drawing on above and below the heart of the sky and the heart of the earth and bringing them in to our heart and the physical world around us. Now, again, when we look at it like that, we're like, right, okay, yes, this is saying kind of like sometimes in order to forgive, we're going to have to do that. Whether it's forgiveness of others, forgiveness of self, doesn't really matter. But it's like, oh, crikey, yes, I know I've been carrying that and I need to let it go. But like, that was a pretty tough thing that I went through. I'm really going to have to draw on those feminine and masculine principles, for want of better words, in order to draw that in order to bring it into stability. But stability is what it brings, okay? Now, we can also see that as representing our dreams. And if you want to stabilize your dreams, then drawing on the heart of the sky and the heart of the earth in order to bring them in is something which, should like work rather well for us. Again, kind of like this is something where if we're looking at it from the point of view of empathy, we might be kind of like really having to put ourselves out into those purest essences so that we can bring that stability to our physical world. Now, we can also see the 6 representing family as the number of family, and you can see kind of like six emosh being kind of like the familiar dreams, the dreams of family, as it were, that kind of like might be assisted through this kind of like acceptance of we're all human and we do what we can do. And so, we play the part in the dream of our family that we're able to play. Not anything less, not anything more. Let's stop, kind of like beating ourselves up for not being what we can't be or whatever it might be, and be what we can be. Nothing more, nothing less. So that we can actually kind of like really stabilize that dream of our family. From 6 Imosh, we're then going into 7 Ik. Again, I find this a rather interesting combination because we have the number 7, which can represent endings. It's the balance point. It's about choices as well. And then with Ik, the word. Okay? Now, it's very easy to use the phrase, the final word with 7 Ik. And, we can understand that in this Trecena where we're talking about forgiveness, so it's kind of like, right, okay, use your words to draw a line under it. Use your words to finish it off, okay? Kind of like whether it's giving an apology, whether it is receiving an apology, whether it's having a conversation that needed to be had. It's like, right, okay, let us talk about this now and draw a line under it. Once we've talked about this, we move on. I think I've said before, I'm not a big fan of the idea of forgive and forget because I think you're just going to repeat the lesson if you've forgotten it. But it's like, let it go. And here we see this day of communication, of final communication. Now, sometimes it is. It's sort of like, sometimes it's like, how can I put it? Like, sometimes people are in your life because you need to ask for forgiveness or you need to forgive them or whatever. And once that conversation has been had, well, there's no more energy around it. There's no need for them to be around you, for you to be around them. And it kind of like just disappears. It's kind of an interesting exercise. But it certainly seems like, like the 7 Ik day being a great day to choose your words, from the vantage point. Make sure you're choosing your words very actively in order to draw a line and end that process so that the new breath can be drawn. From 7 Ik, we're then going into 8 Aqbal, the dawn and the dusk coming together, the wholeness of the cycle. So here we see the wholeness of the illumination process. I was saying kind of like how we could imagine like Aqbal drawing the sun out of the underworld in order to bring things to light. And, kind of like there's the other end of the process as well, where Aqbal is returning things back to the underworld. It's like, the sun rises and then it sets. And it's sort of like the 8 Aqbal, I think, is combining the dawn and the dusk together. And it's about bringing balance. Now, of course, there's these lovely phrases about, kind of like seeds have to start off in the dark in order to grow and all of this kind of thing. And it's accepting this balance between night and day, accepting this balance between, kind of like the upper world and the underworld, light and dark, as it were. And understanding that we need a period of both. And so Aqbal, kind of like, because I see Aqbal as, it's got a foot in each camp. It's got a foot in the underworld, it's got a foot in the overworld, a foot in the night, a foot in the day. So it is already kind of like got this representing both of those things. And here with the 8, it brings it into wholeness. And so it's really understanding how to use the wholeness of both the light and the dark, that we have to go through those phases. And yes, it would be nice if life was all light, right? Or however we didn't have those challenges. It's like, what is it? Kind of like, I think I'm strong enough, now. But we've got to keep learning. We've got to keep moving through it. We've got to keep facing another challenge in order to kind of like keep our level moving and all that kind of thing. And the eight akabal, I can really see as kind of like this is understanding how to encapsulate the wholeness of the experience of the light and the experience of the darkness, and understanding that's what makes us whole. And in this time of forgiveness, it may be very apt day to embrace everything that makes you everything that that is light about you, let's say, but also everything which is the shadow about you as well, because that is embracing the wholeness of the akabal, the in-between stage, because it's kind of like it's saying we're not all one thing. We've all got these polarities, and so eight akabal would be a great day to be addressing them and saying, kind of like, I forgive the shadow part of myself, and I accept you for what you teach me, as it were, and the same with I forgive the light part, because sometimes the light part can get a bit carried away as well, right? So in this Trecena of forgiveness, we understand that it's this wholeness of dark and light that is what we all carry and what we all need. And as I say, Ajmak, all about acceptance. From 8 Akbal, we then move into 9 Cat. Now we're moving into something which I consider to be really rather beautiful, because, Cat, the net, cat can sometimes be seen, or is related to the womb as well. It's related to the magical net carried by Ishkik that she puts down in the garden of Ishmakane in the Popol Vuh, and multiplies corn within it. So she passes this, kind of like impossible task by using her magical net. And cat is very much about this. It's like this planting of the seed in order for it to multiply, the implantation of the fertilized egg into the womb in order to bring a new life in. And here we see that cat day combined with the number 9, which can represent the feminine and can represent life itself. Now, we could look at cat days as great days to work out what you want to keep in your net and what you want to let go of. And here, if we see it combined with the number of life, not the number of feminine, but really I want to go with the number of life. So it's like, right, okay, what do you want to keep in your life? What do you want to hold on to? What do you want to let go of? Now, I always think of this, particularly with Ahmach, as, shame, blame, guilt, being like burdens. They are stones that you're carrying in your net. And 9 Cat is a great day to be looking through your net, the net which represents your life, and saying, right, okay, what is filling up my net and stopping me from enjoying happiness, abundance, contentment, whatever it might be in my life? Because sometimes, we're carrying these burdens that really we should be letting go of. That's what that Trecena of Ajmak that we're going through is all about, right? And so this brings it to the fore. Do I need to be attached to this sentiment anymore? Do I need to be attached to this, kind of like that, as I said, blame, shame, guilt? What purpose does it serve in my life to be carrying this load around? On 9 Cat, it's a great day to be looking at those things which are a burden in your life and working out how to release them from the net, because sometimes it's just like a case of like having our attention drawn to it, right? Kind of like, oh yeah, I hadn't realized that is, that situation really triggers me when I see that person, when I hear their voice or when I hear their name or something like that. And immediately kind of like it flips me into it's like, well, do you think that's healthy? Do you really want to hang on to that? And I know that sometimes it's been really horrible things that might have happened to us or whatever. But there's also a case of like, right, okay, how long do we want to carry it on for? How long do we want to be attached to that? How long do you want to carry that around? Wouldn't you rather that space in your bag was taken up by something that you want in your life, that you enjoy in your life? Let's make some room for it. Cut it away. Let it go. From 9 Cat, we are then going into 10 Can. Okay, so Can, the Nawal of wisdom, the Nawal of power, the Nawal of the serpent. Also, the Nawal of teachers, those who share their wisdom in order to empower those around them. And here we see it with the number 10, okay? Community, hands coming together, representing society, okay? Share your wisdom within society is a very obvious thing for this day, isn't it? But it's you can see it as like, right, okay, how can I join with those in my community in order to help to empower them, help to share my wisdom, help to share my strength, or whatever it might be. We're in the Ajmak Trecena, and we can also see that can represent illusions, and sometimes, we have some illusions in our society, in our community. Sometimes we need to kind of like break them down and forgive ourselves or others for creating them in the first place. And so this is what we can do on 10 Can. It's like we join hands, we come together, and we empower each other. And sometimes that empowerment of each other may also be to help to cut through the illusions that are, kind of like stopping us from forgiving. In this Trecena of Ajmak, how do we work it on 10 Can? It's to join hands with others in our community to help to understand how we can empower each other to forgive. Okay? From 10 Can, we are then going into 11 Cameo. Cameo, the Nawal of the ancestors. Cameo, the Nawal of transformation. And here with the number 11, that number, which, kind of like for me, it can be slightly erratic. We don't know quite which direction it's going to go in. It has a lot of, kind of power. Not always a lot of direction. We don't know which way it's going to go next, but it can be very, very creative because it's going off the, kind of like usual path, as it were. And so for me, 11 Cameo, this is kind of like looking at, kind of like those ancestors over there, those ancestors over there, those ancestors over there, looking to see how they might have dealt with forgiveness, because we're in the Trecena of Ajmak, right? Understanding how transformation can come in from many, many different aspects through, in particular, forgiveness. Okay, now, we can also see Cameo as facing our fears. The Lord's Cameo presenting them with the fears that we need to go through in order to, kind of like level up. And, sometimes I think that the 11 days really bring things out of left field. It's just, you thought you dealt with that. Oh, now it's back in front of you again. Have you really dealt with it? And so, kind of like 11 Cameo, sometimes I think of like the whack-a-mole kind of thing. You just dealt with that one, and then that one pops up, and then that one pops up. Kind of like, it's not to say that it won't be, kind of like, it might be a very interesting day, but it might also be a bit of a tough day, because you might find that all sorts of things are popping up that you thought you dealt with, only for them to rear their heads again, because again, we're clearing out that kind of like that. Those feelings of resentment, those feelings of guilt or blame or shame. It's like these fears popping up here, there, everywhere. Okay, sounds a bit tough, really, doesn't it? So from 11 Cameo, we then move into 12 Kech. So Kech, the Nawal of the wilderness. Kech, the spiritual guide, spiritual teacher, in one way. We also see it's a connection with the wilderness place, can be the connection with the animal kingdom as well. And here we see it with the number 12. The number 12 representing the bringing and bundling of all of life's experiences together. So when you are bundling a life experience together with Kech, it's like, right, okay, I'm using my life experience to navigate my way through the forest, through the mountain. But I also see Kech as, a guide. I see Kech as a confidant. I see Kech as a confessor type thing. It's like the spiritual leader type, as it were. And so when we have the 12 Kech, it's like really saying, right, okay, now that you've had clear out in the previous 11 days of your, kind of like your, let's say kind of the errors of your ways, or, however it might be, it's like, right, okay, how can you help others around you using your life experience? How can you guide them when they're lost in the wilderness, Kech being the wilderness, kind of like how can your life experience help them? Okay? And then finally, we come into 13 Anil. It all comes good in the end, doesn't it? Anil, the Nawal of ripening. Anil, the Nawal of maturity. The Nawal where we were going to receive the ripened corn, as it were. Kind of like this is what we've been working towards. And we see it here with the number 13 representing the ancestors, representing spirit. Okay? And it's the ultimate number. And so, like when we combine it with Ganil, we see that this is the ultimate ripening. This is the gift from the ancestors, the bounty that comes from the ancestors that is the result of our work of forgiveness. So kind of like if there was ever a carrot on the end of the stick that's helping you go through all of that tough forgiveness process, 13 Anil suggests kind of like the ripening that comes through the connection to spirit, the ripening that comes through the ancestors is kind of like the result, the end point of your forgiveness process. Okay, this is kind of like the big light at the end of the tunnel. So I hope that you found that interesting, and I'll see you again in 13 days' time for the Trecena of Toch. Thank you.